Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? Hello?
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo News. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. We'll get some stuff out of the way quick, so make sure you're following along. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the Zoo News episodes or the interview episodes. Make sure you're following along on the socials at Rossifari or at Rossifari Pod on the TikTok machine. And you can support the pod for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. Also, I know we've got a lot of new listeners lately, and if you leave ratings, or especially if you leave a rating and a review, it helps people find the podcast, especially, if it's a good one, like 5 stars. 5 stars helps people find the podcast. And written reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts, make a huge difference and only take a couple seconds, so help your boy out. Yay. Also, don't forget that you can send me Zoo News stories, and I will say your name at the end of the episode, whether I use them or not. So yeah, all right. I wanted to start off this week's episode by letting you know that this one is being recorded super early because of that whole buying and moving into a new house thing that is happening this week for me. That crazy bit of life that I'm not at all scared about. No, but yeah, I'm actually really excited. But yeah, we load the truck and head down to Harrisburg on Thursday, doing the final walkthrough and taking Miles to see the house that day before going to closing on Friday. So suffice it to say, I will not be able to work on the podcast later on in the week. So yes, I apologize if you sent me something later on in the week and it didn't get in here. But as you know, I always keep stuff for the following week just in case. So some of those stories may show up next week. And actually, also, as you'll hear in just a little bit here, this one is going to be a little different. I do have some of the normal Zoo Newsy type stuff for you. But we're going to start with 2 deep dives, actually, that kind of take up a lot of the episode time. And so we'll get to the other zoo news and any conservation news and other news stories at a later date. But I think you're going to like this one. It's pretty cool. So yeah, other than obtaining a new house, there isn't really anything going on in my world that is new and exciting this week, which I suppose is a little bit of an other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln type sentence. But that does get us more quickly to the Zoo Newsy stuff in the episode. But I did want to share one other thing really quickly. So I'm recording this on Tuesday, which is World Tree Kangaroo Day. And I have been posting a ton of tree-roo content, as one does. And I've now actually had multiple people reach out to me, tell me that they never heard of tree kangaroos before discovering them through Rossifari, and actually a few people who told me they discovered them because of my posts today. These are people who don't even listen to the podcast, but who just saw my posts because of the algorithm and now know that tree kangaroos exist and are intrigued by them. And I love that so much. It means a ton to me. And, that's kind of why I do what I do. So thank you to everyone who reached out and let me know that happened to you. Yay, tree kangaroos. And thank you to all of you for being the community that makes me keep doing this and keep going and keep talking about tree kangaroos, because yay, tree kangaroos. Okay, enough about that. Let's get to it.
We've been taking care of pandas and the seals, taking care of pandas, feeding meals. We've been taking care of pandas with Zoo News, taking care of pandas and picking up their poos, pooping out.
All right, so we're actually going to start with a couple of little headlines here this week. And the first one is honestly just here because it's very personal to me. Aquarium of Niagara recently announced the passing of Tux 2, who we just called Tux, a 31-year-old Humboldt penguin that called the aquarium home. Tux was a really amazing bird and one that I got to spend a lot of time with. Tux was one of 2 penguins that receive electromagnetic therapy at the aquarium. It's a procedure that increases the blood flow, lowering inflammation, and improving mobility for older birds with joint issues like arthritis. The therapy is administered by a little handheld hoop that you put around the bird and hold over their hips and knees while they hopefully stand or lay with you and cooperate. You hold the hoop on the bird for 15 minutes, meaning you get to spend some serious time with those birds. And doing penguin therapy is one of the things I get to do when I volunteer at the aquarium. So I've spent many a times hanging out alone, one-on-one, with my buddy Tux, talking to him, helping to relieve some of the aches and pains that come along with aging, especially since at 31 years old, Tux was a very geriatric penguin. Humboldt penguins tend to live like 15, maybe even 20 years in the wild, so 31 is really impressive. And, I have to stop here and say that I am so proud of the team at the aquarium. They took such great care of Tux, and they also quickly realized when he seemed a little off. They got him the absolute best medical care possible, which I actually got to be a witness to some of, and it was pretty amazing to see. The number of humans that came together to try to help out one sick penguin, as often as I talk about stories like this on the podcast, to actually see it in person was just next level. And of course, I was very invested in all of it, checking in on how Tux was doing for a few days after the vets got involved. But again, talking about how different experiencing things is than just talking about them on the pod for me, I actually found out that Tux passed while I was at the aquarium. I was in the commissary and I asked one of my teammates how Tux was doing, and she gave me a look and I just knew. And then, she told me what happened, how he had been doing well for a few days and then just rapidly declined. So the aquarium made the correct decision to euthanize. And, I took a moment and I took a deep breath. But I was also preparing the diets for the penguins, seals, and sea lions that day. And, animals still have to eat. So after my breath, I grabbed the next bucket, put it on the scale, and started to toss in herring. You just keep going. And all day, through penguin encounters and making diets, which now have slightly different numbers for the penguins, and guests asking how many penguins we have and having to remember that the number is 14 now, and putting together the weekly vitamins for the birds, which all have these handwritten notes on the sheets because the numbers have changed, to seeing his mate, Burgess, and wondering what she was thinking. Penguin faces are rather inscrutable, y'all. It was just reminder after reminder that Tux wasn't there. But, the job goes on, and it's honestly too much work to really stop and be sad. It was a heck of a learning experience, y'all. I'm happy to be able to say that Tux had an absolutely incredible life. Some of my team have known him and cared for him for years, and some of the senior staff at the aquarium knew him for ages because he was actually born at the aquarium. So I'm really grateful that I got to know Tux and that I got to have Tux be one of my first penguins I really got to do stuff with on a deeper level. And I'm grateful for how much I learned about penguins and about caring for an animal from him in just my short couple of months. But I do wish we could have avoided this one lesson. But what a cool bird. I'm so grateful for that, opportunity. And of course, that's kind of a deep look at, one of the sadder parts of this whole zoo and aquarium life that people live. But for a look on the other side of the coin and to bring some much needed joy into this conversation, we're going to talk about a very special birth that has taken place this week with our very, very dear friend, Dani Poirier-Larson.
Okay. Oh, got it. Hang on, I gotta hit got it. There we go.
Good job getting it.
Good job getting it.
So what's up, Dani? You have some news to share.
I do have some news to share. I'm still eating ice cream.
I know you literally were like, I'm done eating ice cream, and then immediately shoved ice cream in your mouth.
Is anyone ever actually done eating ice cream? That's my question.
I mean, that's a fair question, and the answer is no. But yes. So
Okay.
Tell us your exciting news.
My exciting news is that I am currently hand raising a Eurasian eagle owlet.
Woohoo! That's so exciting. It's so
exciting.
cute.
He's so cute. We don't know the sex yet. Unfortunately, our really awesome vet was like, save the eggshell. I will send it out for genetic testing. But she was in Australia at the time doing a ton of vet stuff in Australia. So she submitted the eggshell when she got back, and we just found out on Friday that the results were inconclusive. So that kind of sucks.
That is unfortunate.
So I was like, where do we go from here? She's like, I don't know. I'm calling the lab. Like she was not happy about it. But the lab was like, we're so sorry. We have no idea what happened. It was a perfectly good sample. It was the entire eggshell. There's a small chance that it took a little too long to get to the lab, but we're not sure. So we're going to do either a feather pluck or a blood sample, but he's a little too baby still for that. So we're going to have to wait.
Makes sense. He is very baby. I don't know why we're calling him he.
Baby.
We literally were just don't know. And then we're both like he. Good job.
I know we're resorting to a pronoun. We use they sometimes. We use he most of the time. I don't think anyone's ever used she. So we're going to be really shocked if we find out it's a female. But yeah, we say he, and he is going to be 4 weeks old on Thursday. So he is still baby.
Woo, such baby. So tell me how this happened.
Okay. It's really a wild story. So we have 2 Eurasian eagle owls on exhibit at the zoo that we've had at the zoo since around 2009, 2010-ish. My department started taking care of them somewhere around 2015, I want to say, maybe 2016, but I think 2015. So we have been caring for them in our department for a while. There are some minor changes that we've implemented since we've taken over their care, but for the most part, it's just really all about giving them their space. They are not hand-reared, they're parent-reared owls, and they are a bonded. They were supposedly breeding at the facility they came from before. They had never bred at Southwic before. But basically, this is all to say they can be extremely dangerous if you don't work with them appropriately. So a lot of the ways that we were implementing some husbandry protocols with them were just about making them as comfortable as possible and keeping us safe. So somewhere over the course of the last 9 years, we have created some sort of environment that was conducive to egg laying. So we started to see the owls laying eggs the last 3 seasons, including this season. So this season, 2 seasons ago, we had eggs. They were always rotting. We never had a chick. We went to pull the eggs the last 2 years because they were rotting. And we went to pull this year eggs that we thought were rotting. When you do that, it's a pretty dangerous process. We actually have to go in with like protection, and I have a big metal shield that I have to use to protect myself as the person that's going up and removing the eggs from the nest. Usually because they're not sitting on actual chicks, when they see that protective gear, they get nervous about it. And so they just fly off. Like the female just flew off the nest the last 2 years. This year she did not. She wasn't going anywhere.
Oh, wow.
She was like, nope, I'm not moving. I don't care about that big shield that you have over your head to protect yourself from the male. I am going to stay here, which we thought was very sus. So we had to develop kind of another strategy to get the male a little farther away to give myself the space and the safety that I needed to retrieve the eggs. So one of my coworkers like walked to the front of the exhibit to lure the male over to the front. And when that happened, I was able to move myself in as quickly as possible, gently push the female aside. When I pushed her aside, I actually found an egg. I had like a trash picker upper to retrieve the eggs.
Nice.
So I gently picked it up. In the past, we've always been really gentle with them just in case, because we take them back and candle them to see if they're fertile. So I gently grabbed it, gave it to my coworker, Megan. She was holding it in her hand. And then as I'm fishing around for what I thought were more eggs, I actually found a deceased chick.
Oh, wow.
It was an owl. At first, because we give the owls medium adult rats for their food, I thought that it was just a rat that she like had behind her. Because I just saw this white fuzzy thing. So I went to pull that out and I was like, oh my God, this is an owl chick. I could not believe it. And it was unfortunately not alive, and probably had been not alive for a little while. It wasn't rotting or anything like that, but it maybe within the last 24 hours or maybe 48 hours, it had been deceased. So we pulled that. And then as I'm taking this dead owl chick out of the nest, Megan goes, oh my God, this egg in my hand is hatching. Like, right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is crazy. So I was like, what? So Hope was then like, okay, like Gretel's looking at you. So I'm like, get out. So we like run out of there as quickly as we can. And we just, I have this, unfortunately, this deceased chick in one hand. Megan's got a hatching egg in another. And so we just get in the truck and we bolt down to the barn. We get there. I turn on our incubator and we get it all set up. We put the egg in the incubator, and over the course of the next 2 hours, we watched it hatch.
Oh my God.
I know. And as this was happening, like I made a radio call, like, hey, this is like once in a lifetime. If anyone wants to come watch an owl egg hatch, come on up to the break room. And so we just had like a lot of excited zookeepers and like operations staff and management up there. Everybody just could not believe it. It was like a dream come true. Everybody's watching, enjoying this egg hatch. And me, I get on the phone with the vets. I'm on the phone with other mentors that I have. I'm contacting rehabbers. I'm like, okay, best case scenario, this thing actually hatches and then survives for the next few hours. What do I do? And that's just like, that's how I think. So I didn't even actually see it come out of the egg all the way because I was on the phone.
That tracks.
Yeah, that tracks, right? So yeah, that's how it happened. It was a wild, wild day.
All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
Hi, this is Kathy Hill from the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. We're all about restoration projects in progress this season on One Lagoon, One Voice. Learn about the great strides the lagoon community is taking to restore and protect the Indian River Lagoon. Each week, we dive deep into discussions with scientists, resource managers, and nonprofit leaders to explore lagoon issues and solutions. From oyster reefs to clam restoration, algae blooms to muck, you'll learn all about the projects we're tackling to bring the Indian River Lagoon back to health. Click the link in the show notes to follow One Lagoon, One Voice, learn about the IRL Council, and explore our unique lagoon.
My goodness.
I know.
And then what has it looked like raising this chick?
It's been really wild. So I at first had contacted, I got in touch. One of my mentors put me in touch with a wildlife rehabber who was also a part of the IAATE organization. So she gave me the initial feedback right away. I had also immediately texted Amy Fennell because I was like, if anyone knows how to do this, it's Amy. She didn't get back to me until a couple hours later. But let me tell you, when she got back to me, from that moment on, I've texted her every single day since. There's maybe been like 1 or 2 days where she won't hear from me. But for the most part, she's like given me all the advice, all of the feedback. There was
To be fair, you've just wanted to hang out with Amy and have an excuse to text her every day
and to be her friend. Like,
yes.
I really feel like we've bonded. It's the greatest.
Her and I were texting the other day because we actually are friends. I don't even have an owl lit as an excuse, but we were texting, and she did mention that I need to interview you specifically, you know, because of all of this. So she is in your corner, I suppose.
She has just been the most in my corner. It's been incredible.
That's
between
amazing.
her and Cassie Molina, who we work with, and Helen Deshaw is also raising some.
Helen's so great.
Not Eurasians, they're barn owls, I think.
Yes.
But so I've reached out to her. That's been really inspiring because those owls that she's raising are only a couple weeks older than ours. So I've been like really studying everything that she's doing with them, and she's been so gracious to share everything online. So that's been awesome. So yeah, just like so many people in my corner. Rob from NEI was really helpful. It's just been really great. And so Amy's been there for all the advice. She's also been there for all of my freakouts. Me like texting her being like, oh, he's definitely dying. And she's like, no, don't worry. The first pellet is going to make you feel like he's dying. Then they have this tar poop blowout that's going to make you think he's dying. I'm like, it's just every day is another thing that I still can't get past the fact that this owl is here. And now it's like I have this weight on my shoulders to just make sure that he stays alive and that he does well. And I want that so bad for this little owlet. So it's been stressful. As we all know, I'm also pregnant, and I have a toddler at home, and I have a dog. So there's a lot going on in my living room. There's a lot going on every morning and every night when I bring this guy home with me. He comes home with me every single night. Emily was able to take him home one night to give me a break, which was so, so lovely. There have been a couple days on my days off that I bring the owl to the zoo so that Emily can feed him during the day so that I can actually go out and about with my toddler and not have to be glued to this feeding schedule. But for
what is the feeding schedule, by the way?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was like around like 3 hours I was feeding him. So it ended up being about like 7 feeds a day. But I wasn't doing things the way that I would ideally have been doing them had I had more information in the very beginning. So because of that, Amy actually came to the zoo. It was crazy timing that she was still in New England, because as we all know, she was helping with the bird shows at Roger Williams. So she was 40 minutes from me. When she found this out, she was like, oh my God, I can come to you. And I was like, please do, whenever you have the time. So she so graciously came to Southwick and showed me how to do a proper feeding. She actually cleaned him up for me.
Wow.
She got a bunch of poop off his butt and meat off his face, and kind of just, I'm a visual learner. So it was so great to like watch her feed and watch her quote unquote talk to the owl. And like, it really is just this incredible little language. And she showed me a lot of that. And so that just made me feel so much more confident about feeding him going forward. And he started gaining the weight that we wanted to see after that. So it really just is because of Amy that he's thriving. So I'm really
awesome. She's so great. Yay, Amy.
I know.
Yay.
I know.
So I'm curious. You feed birds, or like birds feed birds by like regurgitation. How do you feed a baby bird? I'm assuming you're not puking into its tiny little mouth.
No.
Honestly, because that would be gross, but also just because you have a really big mouth, and I think it would be hard for you to get it in there.
Wow. You're going to keep that in, and I know it. There's no way.
I am. Love you.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, owls do not feed by regurgitation. They actually take the prey, they rip it up into pieces. They're very careful to make sure they're not giving material that the owlets can't eat at a young age. So they're not giving them a ton of like casting material, which is the bones and the fur. So in the beginning, I was having to cut most of that casting material out. So I was just giving parts of the prey that he was able to eat and digest. That didn't include like the stomach, the intestines, some large bones. The fur was coming off. So basically with the prey, which was, a mouse, I would have to cut off the head, the legs, the feet, the tail, cut out the intestines, cut out the stomach, get all the fur off. So skin the whole thing, cut it up into little tiny bits that were kind of like at first I was mincing, but then I realized that that wasn't really the best strategy. So once Amy showed me a way to give a bit of a bigger piece, but to be mindful of the bones, like sometimes you actually have to kind of crush the bones. The parents will like put it in their mouth and actually like crunch it up to make sure there's no pieces that the owls like wouldn't be able to digest, because the gizzard isn't quite able to handle a pellet super early on in the process. So the first pellet for us happened about a week ago. Which was very exciting, because until that first pellet happened, I was like, something's wrong and he's dying, but I just wasn't giving him enough casting material in the beginning. So yeah, that's what it looked like. And the parents will actually kind of like roll that piece of meat in their mouths and coat it with a saliva before they feed it. But because there was no chance in hell that I was doing that with this prey, right? I had to dip it in a little bit of Pedialyte. You just like moisten it. It could be Pedialyte or water. And then you just dab it, blot it on a towel so that you don't aspirate them when you give it to them. And he would just take it right from my hands. There was a brief moment of me having to shove it down his throat because he was really underweight and not eating as much as we wanted to see. So we were kind of like making sure that meat got in there at all costs.
Makes sense.
Amy always made me feel good about like when she examined him, she was like, he's very hydrated. He's looking good. He's strong. So even though he wasn't gaining the weight that we wanted to see in the beginning, I had a good assessment of his like his physicality. Like he was definitely strong enough, and that made me feel really good. So as I got better at feeding, he started to really gain weight. And now I'm leaving more casting material on. I'm giving fuzzies, and I'm giving adult mice as well that I'm like not having to completely dismantle anymore because he's bigger and he's regurgitating pellets. So I can leave some fur on. I leave most of the bone in, still get the yucky stuff out, but yeah, feeding is a lot easier now than it was in the beginning.
Nice. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to tell us about what this experience is like? I know it's not your first time raising a bird, at your house and stuff.
Yeah, no.
Kinta. But yeah, anything else you want to share? All right. We'll be back after this quick break.
What if I told you scientists discovered 100 new species in the deep ocean?
Why did crocodiles survive extinction?
Megalodon. How did it go extinct?
Hey, it's me, Forrest Galante, wildlife biologist. You might know me from Joe Rogan's podcast or my various TV shows like Extinct or Alive and Shark Week. Join me and my friends as we dive into the wild world of animal anomalies and everything wildlife. Don't miss out. Click here to uncover these mind-blowing animal mysteries.
Not really. I'm just really proud of my team. And like, even though I've, mostly been playing mother bird, it's still like, there's nothing that I'm doing right now that would be even remotely possible without everybody. Like, I don't know, at first I had a huge incubator that I had to move in and out of my house every single day. And with me being pregnant and going through 3 doorways, I could barely fit, and it was really heavy. And so like, it was my team doing a lot of that labor. And then just like, I have to dip out for a certain amount of time to feed this thing, cut up the prey. And it really does take a village. So it's been really, really rewarding. And we're just excited to see how he progresses and finally work with an actual raptor and have him free flying in our bird shows. We are really, really, really excited.
Yeah, I'm excited about this too. It was really fun. For those listening, Dani started sending me pictures, I think on day 1, and I've been waiting for you to announce this so we could chat. It's been really fun for me as your friend and someone who respects you a lot, just watching you go through this and gain confidence. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of your team, but I'm proud of you. So you're doing a great job. Yeah. Thanks for hopping on with me. I appreciate you.
Anytime.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
There are certain people in this world who just by their mere existence remind you that the world is a good place. And despite the fact that she was eating ice cream at the start of the interview, Dani is one of them, and I just love her to death. Thanks for coming on, Dani. I appreciate you so much. And yeah, so that is one birth, but let's talk about some other ones from this week quickly. The Toronto Zoo has announced the birth of 2 snow leopard cubs, 2 snow leopards. And these are to mother Jita, who is only 3 years old herself, but is obviously a fully adult snow leopard and now has babies of her own. Zoo Knoxville has announced the birth of a bat-eared fox kit named Ziggy. Bat-eared foxes are ridiculous, and the ones at Zoo Knoxville are particularly cute. If you want to picture a bat-eared foxlet, it's just like a little puppy with really big ears pointing up. It's really adorable. So Ziggy is often able to be seen on exhibit in the early mornings and late afternoon when the zoo is quiet, but he tends to like to hide when it gets a little crazy. Smithsonian's National Zoo has announced the birth of a litter of black-footed ferret kits. This is the second litter for the mother, which is Aristides, and there are 6 kits in total. They're being monitored by camera because mom is doing an amazing job. And if you go to @Smithsonian Zoo and click on the link in their bio, you can watch the same cameras that the keepers are watching to make sure that everything is okay. What an awesome opportunity. The San Diego Zoo has announced the birth of a Francoise Langer, the first one born at the zoo in 5 years. Now, Francoise Langers are black and have some white facial hair, but when the babies come out, they are bright orange. So they are very easy to see if you go and see a Langer baby on exhibit. So if you get the chance to go to the zoo, that's an opportunity to see a very cool, very unique species. Riverbanks Zoo in South Carolina has announced the hatching of their first flamingo chick of the year, and it is already on exhibit with its parents. Hamerton Zoo Park has announced the birth of a new Joey, golden bushtail possum. This thing does not even kind of look real. So make sure you go to @Hamerton Zoo Park on Insta to see. I mean, I'm a person who takes pictures of tree kangaroo joeys, and even I'm like, how does this thing exist? The parents are Pauline and Tao, and they are absolutely adorable as well. So go check out this little happy family. Chester Zoo has announced the birth of a blue-eyed ground dove. This is really important as there are only 15 that currently remain in the wild. So this is actually a birth that is part of a reintroduction program, and it's only the 3rd time in history that the species has been raised in human care. So the Chester Zoo is working with conservationists in Brazil to help save this species from extinction, and the team is now working around the clock to learn everything they possibly can to hopefully repeat this success, raise the bird well, and get a handle on how to take care of this population for the future. And the Columbus Zoo has announced the birth of a new mandrill baby. The young male is doing well, and both of his parents are doing a great job raising him, being very, attentive and taking care of the baby, along with 2 previous siblings. So those are your births for the week. And then we do have a couple of deaths that we need to talk about, of course, as we do. The Santa Barbara Zoo has said goodbye to Clark, an 8-year-old island fox that lived at the zoo. Unfortunately, about a month ago, Clark started to show some atypical behaviors, and the vet team stepped in and consulted with a veterinary neurologist and an internal medicine specialist, and they figured out that Clark had an insulinoma, which is a tumor on the pancreas. And unfortunately, that tumor led to the development of seizures And unfortunately, the seizures ended up not responding to anti-seizure medication after a while. And so the decision was made to humanely euthanize. And that's just so sad because island foxes are an incredible species and they are a California conservation success story. And Clark was just such an incredible ambassador out there telling that story. So I loved seeing Clark and he will be sorely missed. And the Phoenix Zoo has announced the euthanasia of their female Joffrey's marmoset, Posh. Posh had been living at the zoo since 2014 and came to the zoo with some significant pre-existing medical conditions that were able to be managed for years by the veterinary and keeper staffs there. Posh was 14 at the time of her passing and definitely lived beyond what her life expectancy would have been given the issues that she had, not to mention the fact that just in general, the median life expectancy for the species is 7.5 years of age. So yeah, good long life for Posh. Posh was known for being very sweet but tough, and that she always held her own. They said she had a gritty spirit, which I think is adorable, and just because, you know, tiny marmoset. But and they had all kinds of nicknames for her, including Poshy, Poshers, Posh Spice, and of course, Queen. So yeah, she will be greatly missed by the team at the zoo. And moving on from births and deaths, we have a couple of quick zoo news stories here. The Pittsburgh Zoo was unexpectedly hit by a tornado last Friday. While all animals, staff, and guests were kept safe during the event, the same cannot be said for the grounds as a whole. The zoo was able to reopen the following day, but with modified operations as cleanup started early and continued throughout the day, with some animals being kept behind the scenes due to damage to their habitats. Multiple trees went down, fences were damaged, objects were toppled, and the zoo experienced a power outage during the tornado. And while the tornado was both unexpected and something that's never really going to be expected in Pittsburgh, this is not Kansas, y'all, the zoo does regularly train for all emergency situations, and the staff stepped up and handled this one with aplomb. Is that still a word people use? Aplomb. Anyway, the zoo staff did an incredible job, and with the amount of damage sustained by the facility, it will be a long time before things are truly 100% back to normal at the Pittsburgh Zoo. And because of this, they're asking for donations to help offset the unexpected expenses that go along with rebuilding areas of their zoo after an event like this. So please consider making a donation on their website if you are able to. That is, of course, pittsburghzoo.org. And the next story here is for all the panda bear fandas out there. There has been a lot of speculation about whether ZooAtlanta would be able to keep their giant pandas, given the fact that China will yet again be sending pandas to the U.S. However, it appears this will not be happening. ZooAtlanta recently put out a statement confirming the upcoming expiration of the panda lease at the zoo, stating that plans for the 4 bears that call the zoo home to travel to China are already being worked out at this time. The zoo further confirmed that, while they are interested in continuing to host pandas, there have been no discussions with China about another lease at this time. ZooAtlanta will be celebrating a summer of celebrations starting on June 1st, and part of this celebration will be celebrating the heritage of the pandas at the zoo. So this summer is a perfect time to visit and get ready to say goodbye. No official move date has been announced yet, but remember what happened with the National Zoo, where a date wasn't announced, and then the pandas left, shocking some people since it was earlier than they had thought it would end up being. If you want to see these pandas one last time, better make it sooner rather than later. And then last but not least, in our truncated zoo news here, I've mentioned before that I'm one of those people who will happily tell kids, or adults, to stop banging on the glass at zoos. I am 100% that guy, y'all. Well, it turns out that's probably a good thing, not only because it can harass the animals, but because it can actually affect the glass in question. This became evident this week at the Henry Vilas Zoo, where the glass of the otter exhibit was cracked by exuberant guests pounding on it. The glass that cracked is a unique piece and one that will take some time to replace, especially as they will work to strengthen the area and the replacement glass. So they're going to have to do some planning. This is going to take some time, y'all. Barricades will be up in that area of the exhibit, and now guests won't be able to see the otters at the zoo unless they are swimming, since they will still be visible from the underwater viewing area. But what a great example of one bad actor or a group, I'm not really sure, ruining something for everyone. How many thousands of guests will miss out on seeing one of the most charismatic species at the zoo because of the actions of one or a few thoughtless persons, people, whatever. Anyway, definitely a sad tale.
Animal, animal, animal holidays. Animal, animal, animal holidays.
All right, and that brings us to our animal holidays for the week. And it is May, which is National Duckling Month, National Lake Cleanup Month, and No Mow May. And Zoe mowed a little bit, y'all, just a little bit, not all of it, but our neighbors were looking askance. I mentioned them last week, and so we failed No Mow May. But part of our yard is not being mowed, and I didn't mow. I stood strong. Actually, Zoe just really likes mowing, but whatever. Anyway, so that brings us to our individual days, and the 24th is actually not an animal holiday, but again, for those of you who like to send good vibes, we'll be closing on the house in Harrisburg, so send those vibes, please. The 25th is World Fish Migration Day. The 26th starts Black Birders Week, which runs through June 1st. The 28th is World Dole Day, Whooping Crane Day, and World Dugong Day. And the 29th is World Otter Day and National Alligator Day, with the 30th being World Sea Lion Day. Seems weird that we have 3 animals on one day, but nothing on the 24th. But hey, I don't make the rules. And those are your animal holidays for the week. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode of Rossifari Zoo News. Kind of a little weird one, but in a good way, I hope. I really enjoyed it. I'd like to say thank you to all of my patrons, especially my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, and Jenny Owens. And I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who contributed to this week's Zoo News episode, including Anya Keene, Colleen Lenahan, Kim Cooley-Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Dr. Laura Schenk, Elizabeth Charles, Jay Meredith, Emily Rockbuck, Lynn Vesley-Gross, Kristen Khalil, Matt Patford, Kim Purim, Ann Yoshioka, Crystal Chapman, Elizabeth the Lizard Dunleavy, Kay Malensky, Ali Malensky, the Malenskys, and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Thank you all so very much for contributing. Super special thanks to Dani Poirier-Larson for hopping on and doing the interview with me. And even bigger thanks to Paul Larson, her husband, for taking care of their daughter Raina so that we were able to get some time on what was a very busy night for Dani. Y'all are an amazing couple. Y'all are amazing as a team. And I'm just so proud of you all as humans, as well, obviously, as Dani as an amazing animal care specialist. Yay! We'll be back here on Tuesday with a new interview episode. And until then, don't forget, friends, the words Newsy credits backwards are Steiderk Yiswen.
The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.